I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
This week we are talking Ice Age, the very first movie from Blue Sky Studios. We don't talk a lot about Blue Sky Studios on the podcast. We've talked robots, we've talked the Peanuts movie, and Nimona, because it originally started at Blue Sky Studios before Disney bought Fox and canceled the film, and then it went over to Netflix. But this was the one that started it all as a animated film studio, and it has been their most successful franchise. So much so that Disney is still making these movies. A couple of years back, they did a spin-off movie of one of the characters as a Disney Plus exclusive movie, The Adventures of Buck Wild. And another Ice Age movie is set to come out next year, which, if we're counting just the theatrical movies, the upcoming one will be the 6th theatrical Ice Age movies, 7th if you count the Disney Plus exclusive movie. So the fact that it was kind of like, in a way, that Pixar would go back and do sequels. Blue Sky would be like, hey, we need a movie that's going to make money. Ice Age 2, Ice Age 3, Ice Age 4, Ice Age 5.
Ice Age, the next generation.
Are we even in the Ice Age anymore?
Who knows? As we discussed when we were logging off last week, this was a first watch for me. I have not seen any of the Ice Age movies except for little clips here and there until this week doing this watch for the podcast.
It's been a while since I've seen the first Ice Age movie. I've never seen any of the sequels. I've never had an interest in it. But I did like the first. I remember liking the first movie. I thought it was cute. So coming back after now 20-something years back to this original film.
It's a 2002 film, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of, this is our first film in terms of how the graphics are presented. It's the first thing I want to talk about before we really get into the story or the characters or anything, is that it has a very Toy Story 1 vibe to it, in that the artifacts in the animation is not refined, very much like the first Toy Story movie, and also they don't know how to animate humans yet. Like, if you watch that first Toy Story movie, Andy is not that good, and we've talked about like Tin Toy and how the baby in Tin Toy looks, with the exception of maybe the baby. The humans in this movie don't look all that good.
Well, and also, though, I will give them one thing, which is I do believe that the humans in this movie are maybe supposed to be Neanderthals. And so I think that might have been a stylistic choice, partially, to make them a little more angular and, the forehead's kind of wider and more square jaw and square forehead and things like that. But yeah, it's the one thing that I will say that kind of is against that is that when you look at the animal characters, they are also very angular. The tusks on the woolly mammoth are not curved. They kind of come to an angle, and then it'll go like, at 20 or 30 degrees, and then it'll stop, and then it'll go in a different direction for, maybe 45 degrees, and then it'll,
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of kind of angular stuff with the animals as well. So it's not just that they were like, oh, we haven't gotten over the uncanny valley with humans like in Toy Story. I think it's just kind of in general, this was early CG animation across the board.
Keep in mind that this is just a few years after Toy Story 2 for Disney. But like I said, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in this regard because it was their first feature film. Not their first feature animated film. They've done work on other films and some effects, but this is them for the first time doing a fully CG animated film. So for a first tryout, I'll give them some benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. And just for anyone who doesn't remember the timeline here, when this movie came out, this was not connected to Disney at the time. This was Blue Sky under the 20th Century Fox, brand prior to Disney having any control over Fox.
Yeah. So let's get into our cast and what a cast this is. We have Ray Romano. Everyone loves him as Manny the Mammoth. You know, when I think really big animal character, I think Brad Garrett. So maybe they got the wrong Everyone Loves Raymond cast member, but Ray Romano doesn't do a bad job in this one.
No, yeah, that was kind of my thought too when I was watching this, is I was like, do you think they might have meant to get Brad Garrett for this?
I mean, Ray Romano would have been a bigger name. Now, Brad Garrett's no stranger to voice acting, but in terms of we need to put a name on the poster, you put Ray Romano.
Yeah.
John Leguizamo as Sid the Sloth. We've talked about John Leguizamo before.
Oh, yeah.
He has a very unique voice he puts on, very lispy, very raspy. I mean, I could tell it's still John Leguizamo because it's one of the voices that he would do in his old stand-up specials. Watch any of Leguizamo's stand-up specials, and he would do a very similar voice for whatever character he would be talking about during the show. So I already knew it. There's a thing about voice actors in that when performing a voice to give emotion to the voice, anyone can do a funny voice. Anyone can do a funny voice. It's trying to make you...
your average 3-year-old can do a funny voice.
Yeah, but it's the idea of doing a funny voice and making you care about a character, making you sympathize with a character. And John Leguizamo gets that as a voice actor in this movie.
Yeah.
And to round out our main trio, Dennis Leary as Diego the saber-toothed cat or saber-toothed tiger, whatever you want to call him. I mean, it's Dennis Leary. Again, Dennis Leary, no stranger to voice acting, even before this movie.
Yeah, I think the last time we talked about him was probably Bug's Life, maybe?
Somewhere around there. It's his song, but if you're going to get someone to play an a-hole, you get Dennis Leary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of he's the curmudgeonly character that you start out thinking is just a straight up villain, but then you kind of like, oh, shucks,
Yeah. He's definitely the straight man even though Leary himself is a stand-up comic. All three of these actors are stand-up comedians, but Dennis Leary really slides into the straight man role of the trio.
Yeah, I think, we've talked about it before for years now, but that one casting of Robin Williams really set off that trend of why don't we just grab a stand-up comic and shove them in the animated voice actor role,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a thing that is still present today, and you can tell how much thought went into a animated movie with how much they'll focus on the voice actors. Like, if you see a animated movie and the only thing they're talking about is the, so-and-so as so-and-so, it's probably not going to be a good movie. But if they barely talk about them at all, maybe save it to the end, then, you might have a good story here.
And to be honest, the fact that this movie was sold on those three names, and it was the only, those three names and that freaking squirrel.
Scrat.
That was the
Yeah.
entire marketing for this movie when it came out. Rewind back to 2001, 2002, and go like, okay, what is the trailer and TV marketing for this movie? It is either just that squirrel in like a Roadrunner coyote type of thing with that acorn, or it is 20 seconds of those three comedy legends doing kind of humor lines as their characters. You know, it's John Leguizamo being like, okay, it's a baby, but its butt's wrapped up, so where does all the poop go? Ew, humans are icky, you know, like that's like what they sold this movie on. And I think the reason why I didn't see it until now is because my brain went, okay, there is nothing to this movie. This movie is a squirrel chasing a nut around in the background, and then you have these three characters wandering around saying pretty unfunny lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. You know, watching this movie again, really, take three famous actors and put them in a situation where they have to care for an infant, and this is pretty much the animated version of Three Men and a Baby.
Yeah. What kind of surprised me though in watching this and going, wait a minute, and then going to IMDb to see if I was right, is how many of the random animals they run across in their adventures are also really awesome actors.
Yeah, long before he was in a Disney movie, Alan Tudyk is in here, and Stephen Root.
Yeah, if you'd have told me Alan Tudyk was in this movie, I'd have watched it 20 years ago.
Yeah, Cedric the Entertainer, Jack Black, before he was a panda.
This may be the first big animated movie Jack Black was in. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to go back and check the timeline, but this is kind of the earliest one I can think of.
Really, the only one here that is a professional voice actor full time is Tara Strong, who does the sounds for the baby.
Yeah. Well, and the kind of closest to Tara Strong in the gets most of their paycheck from voice acting is Stephen Root is in this. And he's become at least half and half in his career, I think, at this point. Because, whether or not you know him more for Office Space or King of the Hill, if you're our age, he still does a lot of on-camera work, of course. But over the years, he's started becoming more and more a voice actor. And then we do have very short cameos by Jane Krakowski and Lori Badgley as a couple of slots that Sid gets, into a hot spring with or whatever.
Yeah. And our main villain, Goran Visnik, as Soto, the saber-toothed tiger.
Honestly, the only other thing that I really, really know him from, I think, and all would be his character on ER, which I think would have been the big thing everybody knew him from at the time.
2002, probably. So let's kind of get into the story of this. The Ice Age is coming, and a bunch of prehistoric animals are migrating south to avoid the Ice Age, except for Manny, who is heading north. We never really know why he's heading north. He just is. We can get some ideas, but it's never flat out said why he's going against the herd and going back north while every other animal is heading south. And then he runs into Sid, who has overslept, and his family has ditched him. Like his entire family, they've all migrated without him, and he's all alone. I mean, Sid starts out the movie completely annoying, and he's annoying for about the first half of the movie, so you can kind of understand why his family ditched him.
So I do not know why he cannot catch up to his family, because this is the fastest moving sloth in the entire world.
And that's the slowest moving migration line.
Yeah, no kidding. But I don't know if you've ever hung around sloths in the zoo, but you can sit there for like a full day at the zoo and wait to watch a sloth do something. And then I was like, well, maybe it's a different kind of friggin' sloth or something. And other than being like the, you know, extinct version,
Maybe.
it's like a sloth, but a sloth on meth or something.
So they're going to stick together as they just go on because Manny's a big guy and Sid's a small guy, and it's best to stick with the big guy if you want some protection. Diego's story is a very interesting one because Diego and his pack, which is, at this point, it's just Zeke and Soto, they're kind of the only ones left of their pack after they were entirely hunted by this tribe of humans, and they want their revenge. They killed our family and wear their hides. I want revenge, so I'm going to kill one of them. Bring me the baby. And that is the entire motivation for the saber-toothed tigers in this movie. They killed our family. Let's kill one of their family. Revenge. Which, an animal, it's what humans have done since time immemorial. They have hunted animals for food. They have hunted animals for their pelts to keep warm. It's what humans have always done. So the idea that there is a pack of animals that want revenge on humans for hunting them makes sense, but we're supposed to believe that they're bad guys because they've decided to go after the baby, as opposed to go after like the chief or one of the other adults. No, we're going to go after the infant.
Well, I hate to say this, but this is like a real, douche move on their part, because it's like, we want revenge on this tribe, so we're gonna pick the one member of it that is completely unable to fight or defend itself.
Yeah.
No offense there, saber-toothed tiger pack, but that sounds like a real human thing to do.
Yeah, it is. It is. Again, but that's why we're supposed to see them as the villains, because they're going after the weakest member of the pack. And this entire scene where the tigers go after the humans in the attempt to get the baby, as Soto wants the baby alive, as he wants the privilege of killing the child himself. And this whole scene of Diego chasing after the mother, who is just clutching this baby, trying to protect the baby. And it's either get devoured by the tiger or go over the falls. And the mom just sacrifices herself to save her baby, jumps over the falls holding the baby. Because this is a kid's movie, we never see, and we kind of don't need to see, the aftermath of all of that. We just see her jump. We see Diego wince, and then later on, when Sid and Manny find the baby, Sid just straight up says she's gone. That, the mother would still be alive if the pack hadn't attacked the humans, but they wanted to attack the humans because they had their revenge. They wanted their revenge. It's, again, the humans don't speak in this movie, so I don't know if that works in the movie's favor or not. So seeing the father finding the mother's necklace and trying to hunt down the remainder of this pack for killing his wife and presumably his child, while the human pack is also trying to find somewhere for their own shelter because they're trying to escape the stage.
Their first thing to try to bring this baby back is they go back to where the humans were living, but the humans have already migrated and also are tracking the tigers. So the human settlement is completely deserted, and they're like, well, okay, crap. But they do find, Diego kind of lurking around. And Diego's like, oh, you gotta get back to that big migration group. Come on, that that baby is too much trouble for you, but I'm fast and I'll get it. I can track the humans, and you guys are slower. You can just get back to the migration. And Manny's like, yeah, you seem like a Dennis Leary type, so Maybe not. Maybe you trek and we all three go?
I mean, would you trust a character played by Dennis Leary?
I mean, not initially. Cause, he's kinda, he's got where most of his characters are heroic now, but, there's still that, 30-40% that are just straight up villains all through the movie,
Mm-hmm.
So, Manny's smart.
Well, okay, and as they're going through this, it is one of the weirdest scenes in this movie, and I feel it goes on a little too long, is the scene where they're trying to get the kid food and they run into the last of the dodos. Yeah, we see dodos, and the dodos are themselves trying to prepare for the upcoming ice age, and they're all idiots. They have 3 melons that's supposed to last the entire season, I guess we can call it that. And they're all apparently, according to what one of the dodos says, they're all male and there's one female and she just jumped off the cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that yeah, dodo has for a while kind of became a term for a not smart person, but I think that the entire scene of the dodos being complete idiots and extincting themselves was a little too much. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, I agree with you, but remember what I said about they sold this entire movie on them talking about how, babies poop a lot and where does the poop go and ew.
Yeah.
That was the humor they wanted to sell this movie on. And it's because the rest of the humor are things like, what if Dodo jumped off a cliff? Haha,
Are these dodos or lemmings? But it's
Yeah.
like, this is 2002. This is 2002. Shrek came out, the first Shrek movie came out the year before this. And Shrek, this is not.
Yeah, you kind of wanted to go it is possible to write a funny animated movie. Why didn't you guys focus on that?
It's like, there are parts of this that are funny, but,
There were?
to me at least, or some parts. I mean, it's like, I think it's just the interactions between the 3 actors. I don't know if those 3 actors were recording together or not.
They were not. That is the one thing that I did find out about this movie is they did not do a joint record session, apparently, with any of the actors. And that's normal now, although it shouldn't be. I think that's kind of a thing that we need to go back to is more joint recording sessions because it lets actors improv a little bit better and get the feel of each other and stuff like that. But this one, they seem to have recorded everybody separately.
I mean, schedules are what they are. You can't get everyone in there and together, but yeah. Once we get to the midpoint of the movie is where I guess you could say the story really picks up here because we have the 3 animals who just want to get rid of this kid. And they start kind of falling for this kid. This kid is, they try to animate the kid as cute as possible. Again, first animated feature film for the studio. So they're doing their best trying to make this kid look cute.
And Tara Strong does help quite a bit in making adorable, gurgly baby noises.
I mean, and then you have Ray Romano and John Leguizamo, even Dennis Leary trying to be dads, as it were. Dennis Leary trying to play peekaboo with the baby and scaring the baby because he's a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
That I did find funny. I don't know. I did find that funny.
There were some cute things, but it's like all 3 of these guys are guys that are really good at delivering a punchline,
Mm-hmm.
And most of the humor in this movie, when you do find it, is very visual humor based, which seems to be a waste of their talent. Because you get 3 guys who are pretty good at one-liners, and you don't give them anything to do with that talent.
It's I agree in that. Maybe if the 3 of them were recording together, they could play off each other more.
Yeah, I think if they had all been in the same room together doing some of this stuff, they could have come up with funny little things about what is the baby doing and no, don't hold him that way or, whatever.
Yeah. But eventually Diego's pack catches up to him saying, hey, what's taking so long? Where's this baby? I want this baby. And he's saying, yeah, I'm getting there, but I got something bigger for you guys. I'm going to bring a mammoth to you. Just wait. I got to convince these guys to go where I need them to go. You'll have the baby and the rest of the pack will have this freaking mammoth. And it's going to take all of us to take this mammoth down.
And we will be eating good for months.
Mm-hmm. So, it is already painting Diego as a villain. We're trying to butter up the other two to trust him, and then boom, lays the trap. As you said,
I think it's funny that nobody cares what happens to Sid. That did make me chuckle. Is like, hey, you're gonna get the baby you've been chasing, and we're all gonna get to eat woolly mammoths. What about the other guy? We don't care.
Like, not even the other two care about him. He's goofing off and getting hurt, and they're just walking around saying, okay, hey, Sid. Yeah, sure. So, like I said, you kind of understand why his family ditched him. I get that you're supposed to feel sorry for him. I do. And there are parts where Leguizamo's acting does make you feel for him, that his family has abandoned him. But still, you understand why they did it.
I think kind of the moment that really made me feel most for him was when they're in the cave and they find some cave paintings. It's one of those, like, all these, like, guys who shouldn't, guys who are not good at parenthood have to learn parenthood kind of thing. Always has a scene like this where it's like, we're trying to find ways to entertain the baby and all this kind of stuff. And so they find cave paintings and they're trying to, like, let's tell the baby a bedtime story kind of scene. But the animals also haven't seen anything like this, so they're, like, just really impressed by cave paintings,
Yeah,
and they're like,
human art as they walk by Stonehenge.
Yeah, which, I mean, also human art. But when they're looking at the cave paintings, they're like, look, there's the saber-toothed tigers and there's the woolly mammoths and everything. And then Sid's like, and where are the sloths? Like, there's no representation of his people, Like, my kind was left out. And so it's not just like Sid being left out, it's just, it's his entire species, there's no representation. And so we do have that scene later in the movie where he's, like, doing the really bad drawing in there. And he's like, I'm adding sloths to the record.
So there will be a record of his kind whenever the Ice Age ends and they find out about all of these animals that, that they will remember the sloths. And I do like that Sid's style of cave paintings end up being the end credits for all the characters. And like Sid drew them all.
Yeah.
But that scene, yes, you feel for Sid because there's no representation of his kind in the cave paintings, because humans don't really hunt sloths. They hunt sabers. They'll hunt antelope. They'll hunt mammoths, but they're not going to hunt a sloth.
Or a sloth isn't a danger, so they don't have to warn the children of the danger of,
But I like that, the other half of that scene is where Sid says, oh, hey, it's a family of mammoths, and there's a mama mammoth and a daddy mammoth and a baby mammoth. That's how it's supposed to be, Manny. You got to find yourself a girlfriend and get yourself a little one. And then this is where I said we kind of understand why Manny was going north instead of south. Because Manny's little flashback told through the cave paintings, no dialogue. And it's perfect. It is the lone bit of 2D animation in this movie. And again, for no dialogue, minimal movement in the animation, and just the music, you understand Manny's character completely. The way I understand the scene is that Manny is the baby in this scene. And he's just playing around, and then his parents were hunted by humans. His parents were killed by humans. And he is the only one left. Lost his father, lost his mother to human hunters. And it's just him that's left. So you kind of understand Manny's personality in that, and it's why he's very untrustworthy of Diego, and he's very reluctant to take care of this baby because he lost everyone he was close to. So why would someone who has lost everyone he was ever close to risk getting close to anyone else?
Yeah.
Is that why he's going north? Because, what's the point? I don't know. Is there even a reason for him to keep on going,
Yeah, he might just be like, well, let me go north into the freeze because, don't really have a reason to escape it.
As they're going, again, they're listening to Diego, and Diego is saying, hey, I can track the humans. This is where the humans are going. And after all of this, after spending time with these two guys, after understanding these two guys, after spending time with this baby, he starts to have second thoughts. He says, maybe we shouldn't keep going. And he tries to rationalize this. If we keep doing this baby is going to grow up, this baby is going to be a hunter, and this hunter is going to hunt our kind. But in reality, he's grown close to Manny and Sid. He's starting to care about these two, and he's starting to care about this baby. He doesn't know if he can go through with the ambush.
Yeah.
And he ultimately says it, stop. I can't do this. There's an ambush up ahead. My pack is going to jump you and eat you, and then they're going to eat the kid. And he can't do that now because he's gotten close to his traveling companions, as it were. And Sid and Manny are justifiably angry. You lied to us. You set us up. This was all your plan to kill us. But Manny comes up with a plan. Like, okay, yes, I set you up. Yes, I planned to kill you, but I can't go through with it. You're my friends. I have an idea.
But also he's like, yeah, I did lie to you. I did plan to ambush you. I did plan to eat you. But in my defense, I am Dennis Leary.
It's true.
It's true. I mean,
yeah.
The thing is, though, is that there was one thing I thought about while watching this, that they never kind of explicitly say this, but when they get to the scene where it's like, hey, if we give this kid back to the humans, he's just going to grow up and be a hunter, I mean, two of these three characters lost their entire families because of humans and hunting,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, do you think this movie is supposed to be like how the first vegetarian evolved or something? Like this is going to be like the one kid that's like, it's just really weird, but I feel a kinship to the animals. I can't hunt them and eat them.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's like I don't have super clear memories of my childhood, but I just have this feeling that I shouldn't kill and eat the saber-toothed tiger.
But yeah, so they have a plan set up that Diego kind of eggs on his pack to go after Sid because Sid is having the baby. I want them all, then go ahead and maul. Who's stopping you? And so yeah, the plan of using Sid as a distraction with a baby snowman to kind of trick the pack. But eventually they wise up and there's Manny and they're going after Manny. And then Diego does his official face turn in the movie, standing up to his pack saying, no, we're not going to do this.
Yeah. I did like the bit where they make a little snow baby and wrap it up, and then, Diego's like, oh, sorry, I let him get a little too cold.
He got frostbite.
Yeah.
I will say, again, for a first-time animated movie, the fight scene between Diego and the other sabers is actually not too bad. It's not very long. Again, first-time movie, so they probably didn't really have the skills to get it done, but, it's not too bad. And, Diego ultimately sacrifices himself, taking the big bite, I guess, or a big stab from Soto and going down like a heap. But Soto's death right after, though, is, I know that you kind of need it because he's the bad guy, But like he takes, Soto presumably stabs Diego, and he goes down only to get knocked by Manny into an icicle and impaled. I feel like that needed more. It's just thud, slice, ugh. And I feel like maybe it needed more, but I'm going to chalk that up to first animated feature film from this studio.
I'm not sure it was that so much as this is an aggressively G-rated movie, you know?
There's no blood anywhere.
There's no blood, there's no violence, there's no, and I'm not saying that is like a bad thing, you know? But like when I called the squirrel and nut thing like a Roadrunner Coyote cartoon, there is more violence in the average Roadrunner Coyote cartoon, just with Wile E. Coyote hurting himself, than there is in this entire movie, you know?
Same thing for like your average Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Yeah, it's like violence doesn't have to be, cartoony violence, that is, and slapstick violence does not have to be like, injurious to be, violent. But they don't even do, there's like a couple of things where like, Manny accidentally bops Sid on the head and the kid finds it funny, and so they kind of do that little like, the kid finds it funny when we bop Sid on the head, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the most violent this movie gets, up to and including the villain's death. Like, this isn't even the normal Disney, like, oh, the villain falls off a cliff and we just have like a boom at the end to be like, and that was the death of the villain,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is just kind of like, you don't even really much hear a sound effect. You don't even really, it's just like, here's an establishing shot of some icicles. Here's an establishing shot of the villain. And then we cut away, and you just have to use your imagination of how those two things interacted.
Yeah. But after Diego's sacrifice, he says, you have to leave me, because if you stay here any longer, you'll miss the humans. The humans will have already moved on, and you'll never catch them. So that's what they do. They have to leave him behind. They have to leave Diego behind, because if they don't, they'll never catch up to the humans, and thus they'll never, they'll never get the kid back to him. But I will say that ending scene there with Manny just walking up to the father, lifting his trunk, and the human instantly thinking, oh, he's going to attack. And then just Manny just lowering the spear. It's like, no, I'm not here for a fight. You don't need to do this. And then just reaches onto his back and then produces the baby. It's like, here, this belongs to you. Knowing full well that this pack of humans could have easily taken him down with their spears, but he doesn't anyway, because again, he wants to make sure this kid is reunited with his family. And it's a nice, heartwarming scene. And it's this scene and the scene and, Manny's little flashback scene they're some of the few, they are some of the few really emotional scenes in this movie, but they were interesting enough.
Yeah, I will give it that. It has its emotional core in a better place than it has its humor core, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And because we kind of do need a happy ending, Diego lives. And I do like his explanation. I'm a cat. I have 9 lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, the trio's going to stay a pack for a while, and they stay a pack for like 6 movies. They're still a pack with this upcoming new movie. Yes, and there will be more Ice Age adventures for this trio to come. And that would be the end of the movie, but I don't know if this counts as a post-credit scene, because we do get this one final scene with Scrat 20,000 years later, where Scrat has been frozen in ice and melts in... definitely would not... what era would this be? Still millions of years ago, right?
I honestly have no idea.
Anyway, so yeah, the movie ends 20,000 years later. Scrat stuck in a block of ice with that nut, and the ice finally melts and he gets the nut, and then it's pretty much a mirror. We didn't mention it, but yeah, the opening scene of the movie is him getting the nut and then slamming it into the ice, and the ice kind of cracks around him. And we kind of get a mirror of that scene at the end where he's on an island. He gets the nut. He finds a coconut and he slams it down, and then the island cracks. So Scrat is the reason Pangea broke. Is that what we're going with?
I guess.
I don't know. I'm just trying to make a joke here. I don't know.
Well. No, I mean, like, good enough explanation as any.
Sure. Volcano Day. Anyway, yeah, that's the first Ice Age movie. Yeah, I want to apologize if you really love this movie and you can go on and on about the movie. There is not a lot for us to talk about with this movie. And I will apologize to any fans of the Ice Age movies that we did not get into it as much as maybe you, dear listener, may have wanted. There just isn't enough story for us to really get into it. There's a lot of visual gags, and some of them are really funny. There's a lot of emotional points. Like Kiki was saying, these are 3 actors who succeed at telling one-liners, and there aren't enough of them in this movie to really have a 2-hour conversation about it. And I want to apologize to any fans of the Ice Age movies that this episode isn't longer. But yeah, that's the first Ice Age movie. I don't know if we'll come back to any of the sequels, but yeah.
The thing is that, good for Blue Sky for this being a big hit and giving them a lot of money, because I love other stuff that the studio came out with. But this was, I have to say, this was never going to be my series, because we were too old when this came out, I think, for it to be our series. We don't have any, like, warm fuzzies about, like, and then my mom would put this on in the background while, I played with my sister or something. Like, that's not gonna be there for us, because we were adults when this came out.
Which is interesting. As I just said, the year previous was the first Shrek movie, and I think we could probably do a pretty good podcast on the first Shrek movie.
I mean, because the first Shrek movie is, like, really dense in plot, It's like, hey, let's deconstruct all of those fairy tale tropes. It was a direct reaction to kind of the stuff we built this podcast on. Ice Age was like, what if animals were cute and talked? Which is kind of just like, okay, that's literally just what animation was built on. But other than the fact of it's doing it with entire CGI, they're not breaking a lot of new ground here from a storytelling standpoint. I mean, Blue Sky was doing a lot with pushing technology forward, as was Pixar, But Pixar, I feel, if you're going to compare the two studios, they were both breaking new ground in the CGI animation sphere, but Pixar just had a much better team of writers,
And it's not even just a Pixar thing. Like I said, I think we could take any DreamWorks movie or even a Illumination movie from around this time, and they'll have a deeper story. This one was really, like you said, this one was sold on Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Leary. And I don't think this movie...
And that freaking squirrel, which is only in the movie for like a minute and a half at the beginning and the end. Mm-hmm. And their entire, and I do mean their entire thing was like, hey, we've animated this squirrel and, this thing about it trying to get this acorn and funny stuff happening to it. And honestly, those commercials were more interesting than this movie to me.
And like I said, Scrat would end up becoming Blue Sky's mascot for the remainder of the studio's existence. So obviously this little character was attractive enough to some kids and enough that they would make this a marketable character. But do I even need to ask the question? I'm going to ask it anyway. Kiki, does the first Ice Age movie have the magic?
I mean, not for me. I totally respect it if this was like your personal nostalgia fuzzies, but I feel like I am the wrong age for this to be like the sort of thing that would have appealed to me. Even if I'd have watched it when it first came out, I would have been like, well, they're pushing forward animation a bunch, but not a great movie. It's a
There are
harmless
parts of
movie.
Yeah, there are parts of it. I mean, there are clips of this movie I like, but as a whole, there's not enough meat on the bone. So I hate saying it. I'm going to say no magic simply because there isn't enough story here to really, there's not enough story here to actually dig in and really get into a deep dive of what happens here. And I feel bad about that.
I'm not gonna say it's like bad for kids either. Like if you got young kids right now and the movie isn't gonna drive you insane, pop it in. Like it's fine. Put it on streaming, whatever. Do whatever you do now to entertain young kids. It's not there's no like bad lessons they're gonna pick up from it. There's nothing that's like super annoying about it. It's just it's a harmless little film. And sometimes that's better than the alternative, but it's not like one of the great films of all time.
I guess we can move on. All right. Next week, Akiki, it's time to get back into the world of Marvel. This year is set to be a pretty big year for Marvel with Spider-Man Brand New Day coming up and later this year. And at the end of the year, we're getting Avengers Doomsday. So this looks like it's going to be a pretty big year for Marvel. So time to dive back into the M's. We're going to be talking Black Panther, and we have this is going to be a very interesting one because we have talked about Black Panther Wakanda Forever when it first came out. That was an episode we did with the episode still in theaters, and we have not done the original Black Panther. So it's time to come back to Wakanda and watch Black Panther. And I am very surprised that we have not done the original, the first movie yet.
Yeah, me too.
So come back next week for a Black Panther, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.